Alright guys, we're working on something that everyone's probably a bit more familiar with today. Got a GU Patrol, a 2003, was originally a DI and has been converted to CRD, all forged internals, running at about 265 horsepower at the wheels. Owner has upgraded the diff to this big bad boy here. Alright, so he's basically flogged out the diff that's currently in his GU at the moment, the H233, which is a smaller version of this diff here. So this was a factory fitted option. It's the H260 diff, which is also fitted in the DI as a factory option upgrade. So basically everything bolts up and lines up like new. There's no modifications to anything at all. It all just bolts straight in, except the diff itself is actually a bigger diff. So the only internal part which is the same as the H233, which is in that GU at the moment, is the main pinion bearing. Apart from that, bigger chrome wheel, bigger pinion, and bigger axles. But everything else is a direct bolt on and everything else lines on. I'm sure a lot of people have done this before already, so I'm probably going to get critiqued on how I do stuff, but yeah, this is my first one, so you guys can learn with me. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, for those of you that already watch my channel, you'd know I'm more of an IFS guy, so I don't deal with solid axles very much, but I think I'll start off with removing the drive shaft, and I'll just paint pen the yokes so I can line them back up again, and sway bar, and then I suppose it's just a matter of removing rear shocks and trailing arms, and I'd say I think that's, or maybe a couple of brake lines. I reckon that's probably just about it. For those of you that do this all the time, you're probably laughing at me right now, but learning experience. Just like to say, this isn't fun to do in your carport, especially when your stands aren't very high. If I could get the car a lot higher, maybe like another 6 inches, this would just slide straight out, and I could leave the coils and everything where they were and all that, but I just can't get the car high enough. And it's quite hard on my own because this diff weighs a ton. But we're getting there slowly. I just need to be a bit more careful putting the new one in because I can't damage the rotor guards. Always get a nice squealing noise when you're driving. So I was going to swap everything over on the floor here, which is a lot easier than the old Diff, but looking at how I got it in a night, I'm probably just going to slide this Diff in and then swap everything over afterwards. Bit more work, but yeah, I don't want to risk damaging any of the stuff that's going back on, so. So that definitely wasn't the prettiest way to get it where it needs to be, but we're there. So now I'm just gonna slide the coil locating plates or whatever the hell they are. I don't know if they're just for the airbags or what, but the things that bolt on top of this, just gonna slide them into the coil and then I'll bolt them up once the coil's sat in place, and then it's a matter of jacking the Diff up and attaching all the linkages. And yeah, this is hard work.
So just nipping up a last couple of bolts, and the diff is in. All I've got to do is transfer over the sway bar linkages. He's got slotted calipers and new brake pads on the old diff, so I've got to switch them over. And he wants all his brake lines and stuff off the old diff switched over onto this as well. So pretty much we'll just be installing all of that, re-inflating the airbags, and then bleeding the brakes. And then snack time. It is also important to note that I've currently got the diff jacked up a fair bit. Still got weight on the stands, but I've taken the weight of the diff and just jacked it right up so that I can tighten up all the panhard rods and shocks and all that crap. This is just to help the bush be sat in the right spot for when it's genuinely driving. It should prolong bush life. So it's not good to have your diff hanging all the way down, tighten everything up, and then let it sit. Let it sit in an unnatural state when it's resting in its normal position. So the ideal way of doing it is actually drop the car down onto the floor with its tyres, and then nip everything up. But I generally just jack up the diff, put some weight on it, and then tighten everything up that way. So as you would have seen then, obviously there's two 8mm jacking bolts, and if the jacking bolts are real tight, just work your way around the drum with a hammer and just give it taps, and then you'll see shit fall out, and it helps free it up, and then the jacking bolt should work a lot better. So I'm just going to do that now to the other diff and swap his stuff over. there's the difference in the drive shaft lengths. This is the H233 shaft, the longer one. And this is the H260, H260. So that's the drive shaft going on. While it's on the floor, I'm just going to pump some grease into the unis now so it's easier to get to. And I'll do the slip yoke afterwards. And that's it, we're done. I'm going to do a separate video for bleeding the brakes. That's all that's left on this job. Brakes and tyres. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Hopefully this diff lasts this time. He spends a lot of money on his car, but he's as rough on it as a 13-year-old who's just discovered porn. So fingers crossed it stands up to the test of time. Thanks guys, bye.